Welcome once again, my friends, and thank you for stopping by to listen to an old storyteller. Today we have a story from Japan, and the title of this story is The Moon Maiden. There was an old bamboo cutter called Takitori. He was an honest old man, very poor and hard-working, and he lived with his good old wife in a cottage on the hills. Children they had none, and little comfort in their old age, poor souls. Takitori rose early upon a summer morning, and went forth to cut bamboo as was his wont, for he sold them for a fair price in the town, and thus gained his humble living. Upon the steep hillside he went, and came to the bamboo grove quite wearied out. He took his blue tenegui, and wiped his forehead. "Alack for my old bones," he said, "I am not so young as I once was, nor the good wife either, and there's no chick nor child to help us in our old age. More's the pity." He sighed as he got to work. Poor Takitori. Soon he saw a bright light shining among the green stems of the bamboo. "What is this?" said Takitori, for as a rule it was dim and shady enough in the bamboo grove. "Is it the sun?" said Takitori. "No, that cannot well be, for it comes from the ground." Very soon he pushed his way through the bamboo stem to see where the bright light came from. Sure enough, it came from the root of a great big green bamboo. Takitori took his axe and cut down the great big green bamboo, and there was a fine shining green jewel, the size of his 2 fists. "Wonder of wonders," said Takitori. "Wonder of wonders! For 35 years I've cut bamboo. This is the very first time I found a great big green jewel at the root of one of them." With that he takes up the jewel in his hands, and as soon as he does that, it bursts in two with a loud noise. You'll believe it, out of it came a young person and stood in Takitori's hand. You must understand the young person was small, but very beautiful. She was dressed all in green silk. "Greetings to you, Takitori," she says, as easy as you please. "Mercy me," said Takitori. "Thank you kindly. I suppose now you'll be a fairy," he said, "if I'm not making too bold in asking." "You're right," she says. "It's a fairy I am, and I'm come to live with you and your good wife for a little." "Well now," says Takitori, "begging your pardon, we're very poor. Our cottage is good enough, but I'm afraid there's be no comforts for a lady like you." "Where's the big green jewel?" says the fairy. Takitori picks up the 2 halves. "Why, it's full of gold pieces," he said. "That will do to go on with," says the fairy. "And now, Takitori, let us make for home." Home they went. "Wife, wife," cried Takitori, "here's a fairy come to live with us, and she has brought us a shining jewel as big as a persimmon, full of gold pieces." The good wife came running to the door. She could hardly believe her eyes. "What is this?" she said, "about a persimmon and gold pieces? Persimmons I have seen often enough. Moreover, it is the season, but gold pieces are hard to come by." "Let be, woman," said Takitori. "You are dull." And he brought the fairy into the house. Wondrous fast the fairy grew. Before many days were gone, she was a fine, tall maiden, as fresh and as fair as the morning, as bright as the noonday, and as sweet and still as the evening, and as deep as the night. Takitori called her the Lady Beaming Bright, because she had come out of the shining jewel. Takitori had the gold pieces out of the jewel every day. He grew rich and spent his money like a man, but there was always plenty and to spare. He built him a fine house. He had servants to wait on him. The Lady Beaming Bright was lodged like an empress. Her beauty was famed both near and far, and scores of lovers came to seek her hand. But she would have none of them. "Takitori and the dear good wife are my true lovers," she said. "I will live with them and be their daughter." So 3 happy years went by, and in the 3rd year the Mikado himself came to woo the Lady Beaming Bright. He was the brave lover indeed. "Lady," he said, I bow before you, my soul salutes you. Sweet lady, be my queen. Then the lady beaming bright sighed, and great tears stood in her eyes, and she hid her face with her sleeve. Lord, I cannot, she said. Cannot? Said the Mikado. And why not, O dear lady beaming bright? Wait and see, Lord, she said. Now about the 7th month she grew very sorrowful, and would go abroad no more, but was for long upon the garden gallery of Takitori's house. There she sat in the daytime and brooded. There she sat at night and gazed upon the moon and the stars. There she was one fine night when the moon was at its full. Her maidens were with her, and Takitori and the good wife, and the Mikado, her brave lover. How bright the moon shines, says Takitori. Truly, said the good wife, it is like a brass saucepan well scoured. See how pale and wan it is, says the Mikado. It is like a sad, despairing lover. How long and bright a beam, quoth Takitori. It is like a highway from the moon reaching to this garden gallery. Oh, dear foster father, cried the lady beaming bright, you speak truth. It is a highway indeed. And along the highway come countless heavenly beings, swiftly, swiftly to bear me home. My father is the king of the moon. I disobeyed his behest. He sent me to earth 3 years to dwell in exile. The 3 years are past, and I go to mine own country. Ah, I am sad at parting. The mist descends, said Takitori. Nay, said the Mikado, it is the cohorts of the king of the moon. Soon they came in their hundreds and their thousands, bearing torches. Silently they came, and lighted round about the garden gallery. The chief among them brought a heavenly feather robe. Up rose the lady beaming bright, and put the robe upon her. Farewell, Takitori, she said. Farewell, dear foster mother. I leave you my jewel for a remembrance. As for you, my lord, I would you might come with me, but there is no feather robe for you. I leave you a phial of the pure elixir of life. Drink, my lord, and be even as the immortals. Then she spread her bright wings, and the cohorts of heaven closed about her. Together they passed up the highway to the moon, and were no more seen. The Mikado took the elixir of life in his hand, and he went to the top of the highest mountain in that country, and he made a great fire to consume the elixir of life, for he said, Of what profit shall it be to me to live forever, being parted from the lady beaming bright? So the elixir of life was consumed, and its blue vapor floated up to heaven. And the Mikado said, Let my message float up with the vapor and reach the ears of my lady beaming bright.
Thank you once again for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please press that like button. Also, please help an old storyteller out by subscribing to my channel. The next story will be posted in a few days, so until then, may your story continue to be a good one.